What's up guys? I've got a lens shootout video for you here today. I'm going to be comparing three different 85mm lenses. We've got the Rokinon AF 85mm f1.4. That's a native Canon RF mount. Second up is the Sigma 85mm f1.4 art lens. That is a Canon EF mount lens. Both of these first two lenses are autofocus lenses. And the third one I wanted to throw in there that I actually own is the Zeiss Milvis 85mm f2. This is a manual focus lens and it is on the Canon EF mount system. Now you may be thinking to yourself, what is this guy's deal? This is not a fair lens comparison. Two of those lenses are f1.4 apertures and the Zeiss lens is an f2. Well, hold up. Don't you worry, aspiring internet trolls. When you use an adapter similar to this one, but actually a speed booster, not only can you adapt Canon EF lenses to the RF mount, but you also get an extra stop of light. So that f2 lens actually becomes f1.4. All right, let's get on with the tests. All right, so first up, we've got the Rokinon AF lens, or you may see it as Samyang. They're kind of interchangeable. It's the same company. This lens is somewhat unique because it is actually not technically sold or made anymore due to the whole Canon autofocus RF patent nonsense where they're not letting any third-party manufacturers make autofocus RF lenses at the current time and for the foreseeable future. You can't get this lens off of Amazon or B&H or any of your typical sources. You actually have to go to eBay to get it. So I actually rented it from the fine folks over at Lens Rentals because I wanted to see if it was worth the investment to try to track down a copy off of eBay. And I will say that this lens is actually quite nice overall. It's pretty light. The size is really reasonable. This is totally a run and gun lens, though I wouldn't really run and gun that much at an 85mm focal length. It is also full frame, but I did find that it was actually not that great in terms of its autofocus on both the Canon C70 and the R5C. I was actually having to initially switch to manual focus mode, kind of get the subject or get myself in focus that way, and then switch over to autofocus, and it would stay quite well locked on to me at that point. But whenever I was trying to do some close focusing, it was really having trouble initially picking up the focus. When it did pick it up though, it stayed on pretty solid. It also does have a bit of a green cast to it. I had heard about this before in some other reviews. It's not too bad, and with a little bit of color correcting, you can totally deal with it, but that is kind of the look right out of the lens. Now, next up, we've got the Sigma f1.4. This is a EF lens, and so we're gonna adapt it with the speed booster. So that could be considered a disadvantage for some people, if you don't like having to buy adapters and deal with all that, then that could be a downside of this lens, and really any other EF lens for that matter. So if you are looking for a native RF lens in the 85mm focal length, your only real option is native Canon made RF 85mm lens. This one is actually in f1.2, and it's an amazing lens. I've worked with it before, I've tested it before, absolutely gorgeous images coming out of it, but it is absurdly expensive. Now, in terms of the Sigma, you do actually, because you can adapt it to RF and use the speed booster, get an extra stop of light, you can actually bring that f1.4 down to an f1 and get really crazy, super dreamy footage where the in-focus areas are very, very narrow, very just little sliver of what's in focus, and everything else in the background just completely, blurs out. Now, this lens is quite large and it's pretty heavy, so flying it on a gimbal is going to be a little bit tough. You're going to need a larger gimbal. But I did find that the autofocus was actually pretty solid, better overall than the Rokinon lens. Now, because of it being an EF lens adapted to RF, the autofocus does tend to be kind of loud. So I would highly recommend, using a mic system, having your subject mic'd up, just having the mic away from the camera, away from the lens, because then, otherwise you're going to pick up that autofocus sound and the footage is not going to be usable. But overall, this is a really, really, reasonably priced lens. I've seen it for, pretty decent prices, around $700 or so used online. So that's definitely something to consider. I think it's probably going to be a little bit cheaper overall, or similar price to what you'll end up getting the Rokinon lens for if you pick it up off eBay. All right, and finally we have got the lens which I'm actually shooting this video on, the Zeiss Milvis 85mm f2, but adapted with the speed booster. It is set to f1.4. I absolutely love this lens. I love all Zeiss lenses, and the Milvis series is really, reasonably priced for, used copies. It's tack sharp. The colors tend to be a bit on the warmer side. I would say, this lens, the Zeiss, is a little bit warmer, a little more orange in the skin tones. You got the Rokinon, which is kind of on the greenish side, and the Sigma is a little more neutral, maybe a little bit greenish, but it's pretty neutral overall. And with this Zeiss lens, it is manual focus, but you really can't beat the quality and the sharpness and that Zeiss look. It is also quite large, similar to the Sigma, so that is definitely something to consider if you need to fly it on a gimbal. Alright guys, so that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below which of these three lenses you think looks the best. Which one, would you pick up? Which one do you think has the best value? Do you prefer autofocus or manual focus, for your workflow? Also, I am shooting this video and using the recently released Canon C70 firmware update, which brings Canon's new color profile called Canon 709. This is actually a pretty nice color profile, so let me know what you guys think of this footage, and if you would use this Canon 709 profile, which can be baked into the footage, or if you're shooting RAW, then you can use a color conversion from C-Log to this Canon 709 profile and have a lot more flexibility in the grade. But I think the image coming straight out of camera with this, you only needs to be very lightly graded to get it to a more or less final look. So let me know what you guys think about that too. All right, I will catch you in the next video. Peace.